Now, in the last and final section, we would be taking a few questions raised by the audience.
Sure.
And then we would try and get your perspective on them. The first question, what are the most common mistakes candidates make during their preparation journey? And what should they do to avoid those mistakes?
So there are several. I think I mentioned a mistake a bit earlier, which is there's a tendency for some people to read the curriculum repeatedly and not do questions. That's a huge mistake. Not doing the mock, I mentioned that earlier, that's a huge mistake.
Not practicing enough.
Not practicing enough, exactly, in the run-up to the exam. I would say the other big mistake, which is a bit more subtle, is not having a study plan up front. That's a big mistake as well, just being a bit nonchalant about it and stumbling into it. You've got to have a plan, and you've got to make a promise to yourself so many hours per sort of day on given days, and stick to it, be disciplined about that. So that's the mistake, not to do that, I would say. And then another mistake can be just not having enough time. Well, if you register and schedule, work backwards from that, you'll know how much time you have, and therefore how to kind of stay on track with the recommended amount of time. I'd say they're the biggest mistakes people make, and at that point, studying for and passing the CFA program is really about, you cannot go in there and randomly pass the exam. Statistically, that's actually borderline impossible to do that. Yeah. And so what it boils down to is process.
Yeah.
And process is your study plan, essentially. And there are lots of different configurations you could do in terms of using prep provider, using different curricula, using different question banks, using different mocks. There are loads of different configurations, but have a plan, ideally with some word of mouth recommendations, something that worked for someone you trust or someone they recommend it, makes you more comfortable, and stick to it. So yeah, sticking to the plan you put in place is hugely important. They're I think the biggest mistakes I've seen through history.
Understood. So number one, not just summarizing for myself, not practicing enough. Number two, not having a proper plan. How to approach? Is there anything I missed?
And not doing the mock exams.
Not doing the mocks.
Yes, it's hugely
absolutely
important.
Great. How many mocks do you recommend at minimum on an average?
So we see a range of number of mock exams people do. What we see in the statistics is the more mocks people do, the better they tend to do on the exam, which is pretty commonsensical, I would say, no matter CFA exam or any other exam.
Is there that type of analysis done internally to check the number of mocks and the results on the final exams?
Yes, we find that people who do zero mocks, meaning don't do them, have a much lower, as a cohort, perform much worse on the exam than those that do mocks. Those that do both of the mocks we give do better than people who do one. There may be some circularity there, adverse selection, meaning the more conscientious people do the mocks, and therefore that's the driver as opposed to the number of mocks, but we're not sure. So yes, the more practice. Practice makes perfect, as we know.
So how does one evaluate that sense of progress, that I'm moving in the right direction, and am I doing enough or not? Is there some data points they can look at? Is there a way to evaluate that?
Yeah, so we have, as with chess grandmasters, we have the ELO rank. ELO is a methodology used in chess, which determines how good you are at chess, and it keeps changing based on your chess performance. We have your ELO rank within the digital curriculum. It's the blue circle at the top of the screen. And so what it does, it measures your actual progress through the questions and actually continually updates your ELO rank relative to other people studying in your cohort. So that's a really useful tool. I would say, yes, doing the mock exams, there's no actual, when you're at university, I'm sure many of you are taught, which is taught the world over, that 70% is basically a pass and less than 70 is a fail. That's not quite the way it works, because we have the minimum passing score, which can change from window to window based on many different factors. So 70% is not, that's not kind of a bright line, but people still talk about it. What you'll find is, as you go through the study for the CFA exam, your performance will get steadily better on average. So we definitely see that. So as you go through it, maybe the curriculum and questions the second time, your performance will improve. And so you can feel that as well as a learner. You don't need to look at too much data to kind of see that happening. But really, as you do more mock exams with a prep provider or the official ones, you'll see by just looking at the percent you get, it gets better. It typically gets better on successive attempts, even though it's a different mock exam you're taking.
So you're not giving us a threshold?
No.
All right, okay. Now the August exams are just a few days away. A lot of candidates probably participating in the session today are taking those exams. Do you have some final minute tips for them? Last 10 days, last 15 days, how should they go about preparations?
Yeah, definitely. Just to repeat the mock exam tip there, which is first of all, do both mock exams that are with your registration. It's basically free money. Why would you not? So some people say they don't do it because they ran out of time. That's a silly thing. In that case, stop studying and do the mock exams.
Yeah.
It's a smarter use of your time if you're short on time. Definitely. And then, yes, don't just do the mock exams and do it in a faithful way to the exam day itself, but also read every single explanation carefully, even if you got the question correct. It really helps reinforce learning. And ideally, I would do it. Take a single day to do a single mock like that, because it's going to take you probably 3 hours to do the 4.5 hour exam at home, and then it can take you up to 2, even up to 3 hours, depending. To go through the explanations, especially if you want to go and look at the bit of the curriculum that was relevant to that. So then it's a good 5 hours of pretty heavy mental work. That's probably the most you can do in a day before wanting to do something different. So allocate a day per mock exam, and if you have mock exams from prep provider, do the same thing. Allocate a day to each one of them.
Yeah, that's useful. I think a lot of my learning actually, especially for level 2 exams, I remember this is how I learned. I got onto the mocks very early. And I would read the solutions of even the ones I was getting right. Because
exactly.
I think you always, at times you get them right, but you don't know the true reason.
Right.
You just get lucky, and that allows you to find your mistakes.
Yeah, you pick up nuggets in the explanations. You think, oh, that's interesting the way they've explained that. And so you actually learn. It's not just a litmus test. It's actually a learning experience as well, doing the mock exams for sure.
Very true.
Yeah.
All right, next question. This is an interesting one. I'm from medical background, reappearing level 1 in November 24. How many days should I spend reading the curriculum before I appear for mocks? How many mocks should one appear before the exams?
That's a complicated question. So they've done it before. I'm going to assume that they have done it in the 2024 exam series. Let's just assume they did it in February. Otherwise, it's a different scenario. They had a curriculum change. But nonetheless, let's assume it's the 2024 fail, let's say in February. Okay, great. Medical, okay, so maybe they don't have a finance background, interesting. And then the questions are how long to spend studying the curriculum again?
Yeah,
and
how long to spend time on the curriculum versus jumping onto the mocks?
Yeah.
And I think it's a great question for every candidate who's reappearing for the test, because then the question is, okay, I've gone through the material once.
Yeah.
So how do I change my strategy this time around when I'm taking the exams again?
Yeah, interesting. Well, they're going to have the actual results form from the time they failed the exam, which has got the bars, which shows performance. And so that should be used to kind of steer. And I would definitely recommend looking at your weaknesses and not just you can't just pass the exam by focusing on your strengths typically. You actually need to, it's better to spend time on the weak areas than the strong areas. So that's definitely a tip. So I would say it's probably beneficial if they have the time. It's November 2012. It's now August. There's time to go through the curriculum and the actual questions in there another time, I would say. And then just take the mocks very seriously. And if you can, get different mock exams from the ones you took when you failed, and do them in addition to that. And so I would recommend going through the curriculum pretty briskly. And going through the questions contained in there, and then taking the mocks really seriously, trying to get your hand on more different mock exams from CFA Institute or from prep provider, different from the ones you used before, and that I think will set you up for success.
That's insightful. On that note, I just wanted a side question. So when we get this exam results, one is your aggregate score, which has a MPS, but you also have subject-wise breakdown. At times I see the width of the blue bar is a little bigger.
Dark blue bar or light blue bar?
The light blue bar.
The light blue bar.
Which I'm guessing is some sort of a confidence interval.
That's right.
Which is a function of standard deviation of score of all the candidates.
Well, yes, it shows you, It shows you where you likely would score in the exam itself.
Right.
Then it shows you where other people score typically, and the dark blue line is where you scored.
Right.
So it's showing you relative to the pack, basically. So if your dark blue line is well below the light blue box, it means, that's a weak area for you. Whereas if it's above, then you've done very well. So it's showing you, so you should focus on the areas where you're dark, the thin dark line is lowest, should be areas where you focus, or lowest relative to the light blue box.
I mean, you're talking about the subject-wise
Yes,
marks, right?
exactly, the topic area by
subject-wise,
topic area.
Topic area-wise.
Exactly,
Right.
yeah.
So, is there generally a very large sampling bias in those statistics? Like, for example, okay, let me simplify the question. I'm a candidate, and it shows that I've scored low in, let's say, alternative investments. Does it imply that my performance was very weak, or does it imply that I was just unlucky?
So we have the topic weights on the, you can see it on the candidate body of knowledge, and the topic weights we publish on the website. And so you can see the rough proportion of questions that we'll have on an exam form. Remember, let's just talk about level one for easy argument. So 180 questions, 20 not graded. We don't tell you which 20 not graded, but 160 therefore are actually graded. And of those 160, the breakdown is in line with the ranges we provide on that breakdown of percentages. You'll notice there are often ranges given in terms of the proportion of questions, so you're not quite sure how many questions are on each area. And in fact, if you go in the exam room, you'll realize, if you have spare time in the room, that the number of questions will be in that range, but will be variable. And so you can have high end of the range in terms of number of questions on one topic area, and maybe low on another. So in terms of sampling bias, or in terms of some topic areas can be based on far fewer questions than others, for sure. And so statistically, yes, there's going to be a wider confidence band, meaning less confident there in one area than another. So that's a statistical truth, that we're going to be more confident in some areas than others based on the sheer number of questions that we had.
Understood.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a good idea to start working while I'm preparing for different levels? So we have one candidate who's already cleared or passed level 1 exams. And now they want to know, is it a good idea that I start working along with preparation of level 2 and level 3? Or do you reckon I should just finish all my levels and then get into a workforce?
So the most valuable commodity in a job in finance is experience. And so I definitely not recommend, really with any credential, letting the tail wag the dog. So definitely jump into the workforce when you can, when you have a good opportunity. So don't let the tail wag the dog in terms of credentials versus experience. Experience is the coin of the realm, and we're trying to help you get experience. And so when you have a chance for experience, take the experience for sure. It's true that if you are time between jobs, or just having graduated before you start, you're going to have more time for CFA program studies. That's true. But you shouldn't let that drive your career decision making. So that's my simple answer to that question.
Yeah, I think we keep on repeating this all the time to candidates to start working. And exactly as you said, experience always helps you in the long run. All right, Rob, this has been fantastic. Thank you very much. I had great fun solving those questions with you. And I'm sure candidates got some valuable insights on the prep strategies. So thank you very much. And hope to see you again soon.
It's a pleasure. Thanks, Utkarsh.
Yeah. Thank you.